What content are you getting summarized today? We have topics from men, why are you so afraid? Why are you so anxious? That balance between high work, gratitude, and just being able to be comfortable with your own skin. That's Jimmy Rex here today. And then simulation. Are we living in a video game? Are they multi-universe? Who is one of those high prolific proponents of this theory? Well, that's Rizwan Virk, also in our episode today. And finally, just the evolution of our continuous political environment with PPD in their episode of 412. That's what you're getting today in episode 16 of the podcast summary report. Stay with us. Let's dive into it now. Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast summary report, episode 16. I'm glad to see you all. We're changing it up a bit today. We're doing a shorter video, only 3 videos, only 3 podcasts are going to be summarized today. Let's dive right into what is the content. Podcast number 1, Chris Williamson with Jimmy Rex. This is an hour and 42-minute podcast today. Then number 2, Joe Rogan Experiences, episode 2151 with Rizwan Virk, 2 hours and 38 minutes. Then and bringing it home, concluding it with Patrick Bet David PVD podcast, episode 412 with 1 hour and 15 minutes. Excellent. So let's do number 1, Chris Williamson with Modern Wisdom with Jimmy Rex. So who is Jimmy Rex? Jimmy Rex is he first got into the scene as a multimillionaire by real estate. He had 15 years in this industry, and one of his biggest sales of this house was a house worth 32 million. But then he's started a podcast. He does the Jimmy Rex show, and he is the founder of We Are They. This is a organization that does activities for men, for the society, etc. And he is just a life coach and person that is trying to build the confidence backs of young men and men across the world and women across the world as well, right? So that's Jimmy Rex. And this was a short podcast. This is an hour and 42 minutes. I've liked that Chris Williamson has shortened some of his podcasts with some of these guests. He's had some of 3 hours, 3.5 hours, 4 hours, where a lot of these individuals, anthropologists, life coaches, etc., they've been in the 90 minutes, 100-minute mark. So I like this one. The episode right away starts with the main topic of this episode is, let's say, pointing towards men. Why are we so afraid? Why are we so anxious? The fear of failure, the fear of actually branching out to something new. And Jimmy Rex, starts talking about his experience. But the main start of this podcast is they started talking about feeling safe and the common struggles of men. So, how do we feel safe? How are we safe in our environment, safe in our community? And then just diving into those types of feelings of men and their struggles with the toxic masculinity. When am I free to be my own self? When am I free to be able to have that community experience with the friends around me, the schools around me, the societies around me, at work, and all those different locations. That's a good conversations between both of them, because that's about a 15 to 20 minute discussion of how we've lost sight in how men are right now perceived in society, and sometimes we're almost seen like, you're not as important, your opinion is not valuable enough, or you should not worry about that, you're not an expert in that sense. So Jimmy is just trying to be able to communicate with the young men that find value, a vision, a path is important for you. Your opinion does matter. Your struggles do matter. You're not alone in this world, etc. All those different things. And that was very interesting to see just the start of that podcast right into it. Then I think this is for everyone, not just men, but also men and women, but also to be able to feel comfortable with your own skin, to be able to take feedback of current situations and everything that you see and that is around us. In this topic, he talks about 15 to 20 minutes on how be able to just love yourself, accept yourself, and from here you're able to then start being more proficient, more effective in what you do, in anything that you do. But a lot of the times, right now, we live in a current society that we, in a social media society with filters, with you see Instagram artists or videotapers or YouTubers, etc. They're always portraying a better life than what we have outside. And one of Jimmy's Rex messages, a lot of that is fake. And what really connects you to your man, to your partners, to your friends, to your family, is the life that you have on your day by day basis, right? Being able to have that human experience with those around you. So it's very important to be able to be comfortable with that society around you, with your current image, not your social media image, and as well as having high standards for your life and achieving the things that you're meant for and achieving those things that you're good at. Because from being comfortable with what you have, being comfortable in your own skin, you can then transition to have high standards and be able to work hard and then achieve your path, your success, and then transition into gratitude. They got into gratitude and how gratitude is so important for us. Jimmy is just been discussing how it's done wonders for his life. Being able to be grateful, being able to, you don't have to be grateful with just money and donations and charities here and there. You can also be grateful with your time, where you donate your time to others, your experience, your minutes to be able to just coach other individuals. It's just a quite a magnificent thing that we can do with our own time. Then in the last 30 minutes or so of this podcast, this the main topic didn't veer. It was just that message of message for men, like I was saying. But he talked about the fear and how fear can judge us, can uh, uh, change the way, the path that we as men are walking through, and then make us less decisive, make us closed off to our environment, and will impact everything that we do in our lives if we let fear control us. And we as men, that we're, oh, I'm never afraid, I'm never worried about what I'm going to do, is such a lie, because every man is afraid of something. But as long as we understand how to approach that fear, how to manage that fear, and then most important, how to overcome that fear, then we are able to live a better life, because that fear can be as simple as falling back into an addiction, falling back into alcohol, or even talking to a woman, or approaching that lady at a bar or something like that. Just they gave a lot of different examples. So that's why it's important to be able to manage and overcome your fears. Uh, I like how they closed off the podcast. They talked about how it is becoming more prevalent, less alcohol, becoming more present, and then having devotion. All those three things quickly. Less alcohol, you can see it. It's almost like it's losing its appeal. It's like becoming the next smoking, right? Smoking right now, nobody almost smokes. But alcohol is like a lot less people are drinking alcohol because of health, because of fitness, because of a lot of different things. And then becoming more present. Uh, Jimmy Rex talks about this. Put your phone away. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family members. Do activities that doesn't require social media. All those things, and then just finally finding devotion and having devotion, something that has an impact and meaning for you. So I really like this podcast. I'll give you my recommendation at the end of which of the three podcasts you should listen to. But this is a good one, short one, and I recommend it to you. All right, moving on to our second podcast review today. As a Joe Rogan Experience with Rizwan Virk. Rizwan Virk is a professor, computer scientist, author, so many different things under his resume, but he is a main proponent of the simulation theory. that we live in a simulation, that we almost live in a video game. He talked about RPGs and role playing games, and he talked about NPCs, non um, non performing characters or something like that. So many different things. So they dive right into it, right? The podcast starts by him describing NPCs and RPGs and a little bit of video games, a little bit about his experience, and then and that's becomes the main topic of this podcast, right? Just his thoughts on the simulation, his thoughts on the multiverse, his thoughts on quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and how that is a main driver of us living in a simulation because we have possibilities of different realities at the same time, and then we can almost decide in the future. That future, I have the timestamps, is how the future is communicating with us by sending us a little bits of information, and then we take the decision with that information that the future is sending to us, either via dream or something, or role play. So this is a very interesting topic. I've heard a lot of different scientists on the Joe Rogan Experience, but this one is a conversation that is really, let's say, attacks my current beliefs, right? Attacks the way that we have been raised with our society. That you live, you're born, you live, you die, and he just has a very different experience or concept of how we are born, and because of physics and because of all of his knowledge and the computer base and etc. He truly believes that we live in a simulation, even a multiverse simulation, and he feels that with our society right now, actually understanding this now, he says it passed the 10-year mark, that you can even see it in the in the movies, in the metaverse, in the multiverse, with TV, with shows or superheroes and stuff like that, that we can actually understand. Even a 10-year-old kid can understand the multiverse easier than other things like quantum mechanics or something like that. So I have those different timestamps in the videos about how he discusses quantum physics and the connection between the simulation, how he talks about quantum computers, and how once we develop that successful quantum computer, that our reasoning and our solving exponential problems are going to be done in seconds versus days or years, or days, weeks, months, or years. And then just how in the current society that we live, he sees more probable that we are living in a simulation, and that we are rendering our way of life, our world around us, versus what he believes our conventional society has taught us to think about. He does think about just different concepts like religion and the simulations, like us having a soul, and they briefly talk about the UAPs and UFOs in this in our current society, and a little bit about reverse engineering. Like I said, I have all those timestamps when you can actually just click it and go to that conversation in the podcast. But just let me tell you, this is a very interesting podcast, and I left the podcast more confused than when I started it. I think there's still going to be a lot more information coming out of this. This is very interesting that Joe wanted to have this type of individual in this podcast. Of course, I'm not surprised because he loves this type of information. But how it is interesting that he's not main driven, right? And I'm talking about Rizwan. But when we have more of these types of conversations, then you can realize how, oh, that's a different point of view. That's an interesting point of view. And like I'm saying, that broke a lot of my ways of thinking. But I'm still more comfortable with just I was born, I live, and then I die, right? But hey, I love it. Even if it's right or wrong, it'll birth more concepts and ideas that can continue to progress our society, right? So, more power to Rizwan. If you like this types of content, if you like this science, this complexion, video games, and all that stuff, I recommend it to you. But if you're like me, that I've only heard the simulation theory from afar and really don't know the backbone about it, you're probably going to be lost just like me. But don't take my word for it. Just go dive into it, listen to it, and enjoy. Right? It's a good episode. It's a confusing episode, but maybe you like it. All right, that's it. Podcast number 2. Jumping into our last podcast. Podcast number 3 that is being summarized today is Patrick Bet David podcast, the PVD podcast, episode 412. And this is just a continuation from the last 3 or 4 or 5 episodes. And I feel that almost the majority of all his episodes are going to rely on politics. You know that when it's the home team, it's just the home team, they do a lot of different stories, economy stories, the financial stories, political stories, and and um, and anything around the media that is going viral, and stuff like that, right? So it didn't veer from this particular episode. It starts right away. They dive into the very first story about Elon Musk calling for working from home immoral because you have others out there creating your food, your products, and your cars, etc. And why are you better working from home? What's the advantage that you have to be able to work from home? That shows me laziness. That shows me detachment. That shows me that you don't care. Da 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 da. Shows the video. Very interesting. And PVD actually sides with Elon on this, so it's interesting to see that. And you can see that right now in the U.S., it's one of been the slowest country to go back to working from the office, and a lot of the younger employees are like, oh, I want to continue working from home, but you can see that the efficiency levels are not the same. And from my own experience, I'm a hybrid. I can go into the office several days and I can stay from home other days. I will tell you that because I'm a more of an extrovert individual, I like going those days into the office and having those interactions with my team. But because I have teams in different locations and different cities across the country, sometimes even if I go work in the office, I feel that I'm working remotely because people are in other states, in other cities in the country. So I still have to be remotely with them. So they dive into stories with regards to the economy, to the polls in our current time frame. We're just about to start June. We only got June, July, August, September, October, and then the election. So we're only 5 months away. So CNN Black Voter data, Biden's claims that that he started with a 9% inflation, a video on that. Then Patrick talks about the Iranian president's crash and he's dead, and that story, all those different types of comments, even a video of Trump saying that he wants to demand a drug test from Biden on their first debate because he doesn't know what character he's gonna get, the hopped up one or the regular one. So finally, they put it all together with two stories. One from Michael Cohen stealing money from Trump, and how his credibility continues to get impacts in this Trump's case, and then finally the P Diddy attack on Cassie videos from 2016. This video is a little graphic, and it's just how it's just the image and continuing spiral from Puff Daddy continues to go down, and it's just it's disgraceful. It continues to be very, very poor, and who knows what's going to happen on that side. So those are some of the stories that were described on the Patrick Bet David. Now, pulling it all together, if you want a recommendation from me on these particular 3 podcasts, I recommend Chris Williamson with Jimmy Rex, because PVD continues to be stories, politicals, is nothing that is truly impacting you, maybe the economy, but not the other ones. Joe Rogan is a scientific discussion. Rizwan Virk, which is maybe it's right, maybe he's wrong, but is it truly going to change my life? Or Chris Williamson, because if you're a young man, how can it impact you to start thinking about those thoughts, confidence level? You're not toxic for being masculine. Anything that can help you become a better man. So my friends, that is it for today. I hope you like what I showed you. I hope you like the content. Don't forget, click on the last episodes. I'm going to be giving you shorter content, faster content for your convenience. And thank you, and stay tuned for the next one.